Playwright Anton Chekhov famously said, "Never place a loaded rifle on stage if it isn't going to go off." In other words, every detail must be relevant, and every setup should have a payoff. Thus, the narrative principle of Chekhov's gun was born. But it isn't always a gun. Chekhov's Whatever is a podcast where myself and guests watch a movie and try to predict what role Chekhov's gun will play. Welcome to Chekhov's Whatever. Hello and welcome to Chekhov's Whatever, the podcast that makes a game of movies and storytelling. I'm your host, Meg Mazeski. Here with me today to talk about the 2026 Netflix creature feature, Thrash, is Liz Serna. Welcome to the podcast, Liz.
Thank you, Meg. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. Liz co-hosted the Nerdy Bitches podcast with her friend Heather, two geeky ladies podcasting their way through pop culture. Liz, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. Like I said, we have done this podcast for 127 years, it seems like. We started in 1492. But no, it actually started out, it was hilarious. Heather, I actually knew her husband who became producer Craig on our show. I knew him from working, and then she and I met and became really good friends. And then she just emailed me one day out of the blue, and I had no idea what a podcast was in 2014 when she messaged me about this.
I thought you invented podcasts, though, based on when you started.
I really did. And honestly, yeah, we are part of a group called Lady Pod Squad, and there were probably, I would say, about 10 of us, 10 podcasts at about the time that all kind of banded together. And we're like, hey, we're ladies in podcasting. We should be friends. And we were. And we all started at the same time. And it blew up to our organization has like over 1,800 members, which is insane to me. You know, it's fantastic. And I think you and I have both been on the board at different times or been like just a part of this inner sanctum of this. And I just remember in 2014 getting an email from my friend that said, hey, I have an idea. It's going to be a lot of fun. It will make no money and it's going to be a ton of work. Are you in? And I'm like, hell yeah, I'm in. Like she didn't even tell me what the project was, but those are my favorite things. Like working really hard, apparently making no money and just, you know, having a lot of fun. And that just spun off into, she and I had sat down at my birthday party that year, but she and I sat down and just talked to each other and laughed and had such a good time for almost the entirety of this party. And I was like, yeah, hey, it would be so fun to get together and just record our conversations because really good shit comes up. So, hey, let's record it and maybe see if someone else thinks it's funny too. And we ended up doing 206 episodes. We still have one unreleased episode that has not gone out. The secret last final episode, perhaps.
You're like Disney, you're keeping it in the vault.
We are. We have it in the vault. But we are looking to go into a new horizon going forward. So our show has always been very female focused. We have only had a few very select male guests on our show through the entirety of these 200 plus episodes that we've done. We've done them live at conventions. We were running a massive game of Cards Against Humanity at Comic Palooza here in Houston for several years in a row. And it was amazing. We have such a great community of other podcasters, both male and female and, you know, non-binary, like everyone in between, everyone, a big melting pot of all the peoples that like to communicate in this format. And it's been such an amazing thing to see. And we are looking to move forward in a new direction. And so hopefully we will not be announcing something soon, because we can't, but it will be so fun when it just sneaks up on people, I think. So if you hear us and you think you know us, no, you don't, but just know it's our new favorite podcast.
Well, you heard it here first, folks, kind of. I feel like I got the exclusive scoop, kind of.
Didn't hear it here first.
Keep it on the DL. Well, I'm super excited to chat with you today, and I'm looking forward to your super secret project as well.
Yes.
So yes, as I said at the top of the episode, we are here today to talk about the 2026 Netflix film Thrash. This movie is described as follows on Netflix. When a catastrophic hurricane slams a coastal town, stranded residents must survive rapidly rising waters swarming with ravenous sharks. This movie stars Phoebe Dynevor, Whitney Peak, and Jimon Onsu. This movie was also written and directed by Tommy Wirkola. Currently on Rotten Tomatoes, this has a 43% critic score and a 24% audience score, which I wrote yikes next to in my notes. But
I was like, I'm surprised it's that high.
Yes, listeners, just to give you a little peek behind the curtain, I do try to always pick a movie that I at least have some interest in seeing and some hope in enjoying. And also, I usually float a few options past my guests. Hopefully, there'll be something that they can select and also enjoy. So anyway, I was looking at movies that were new to video, and there was a real dearth of interesting movies. And then I saw this cheesy creature feature shark movie on Netflix, and I was like, well, Liz probably isn't interested in this, but I'll put it on the list anyway. But yeah, lo and behold, Liz, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about your amazing cheesy shark movie history?
I am a shark junkie, just in general. So from the age of about 10, I saw the very first week of Shark Week when I was in was it 1986 or whatever it was, when they were first started this, and I was like, what is this? Because I love nature documentaries. I like all of these kind of animal things and whatnot, and sharks just fascinated me from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
So I have seen every year of Shark Week for 38 years that it has been running, 39 years, whatever it is. And again, grew up on Jaws and Jaws 2 and Jaws 3, and those were pretty much what we had in terms of shark movies, kind of in the 80s, the late 70s, early 80s. And then just anything that kind of came after that, that wasn't a documentary, was always either something that was just abysmally dark or hilarious and stupid. And I love them all. I really do. Mm-hmm. I am a massive, on Nerdy Bitches, we started doing basically a feature month for our birthdays. Heather's is in April, mine is in September. So in September of, I think it was 2020, maybe it was either 2019 or 2020, my birthday was Shark Month. Mm-hmm. So we did 4 shark-themed episodes. We did The Meg, we did Sharknado. Honestly, I can't even remember the other ones that we did, but we tried to hit a good variety of the different shark flicks that were out there. And in one of them, we actually had a shark expert come on the show to talk about the movie The Meg with us. But we pretty much just spent that entire episode talking about sharks and shark facts. And we tried to bring a lot of awareness as well to the truth and reality behind what's going on with sharks in the ocean and conservation and just weird little facts about sharks that people don't really know if you're not a junkie. And then we had to do kind of a bonus episode where we actually talked about the movie The Meg because we could not let Jason Statham's abs go unchallenged. We had to have that conversation. So it was a really good time. This is just such a dorky passion. I absolutely love these movies, and the stupider the better in some cases. So when you brought this up and all you said was cheesy shark movie and I hadn't seen anything about it, I'm like, that's the one. I'm like, I'll do a rom-com.
You're like, I don't even have to look at the rest of the list.
I don't need to know. It's like cheesy shark film just really slides right into my wheelhouse. And I was so looking forward to doing this, and I watched this with my husband, who is not a shark junkie and not a shark movie junkie, though he has obviously seen a variety of them with me throughout the years that we've been together. So for me, it's always so much fun to watch non-shark people watch shark movies because they're terrified. They're always terrified. But if you are a shark movie watcher, there's a, kind of there's a formula and there's things that are going to happen. And you kind of get the spidey sense of when they're coming. Yes. And I always just turn and look and watch. With the Meg specifically, I went for my birthday with my niece, my sister, and my sister's friend. And now my niece has been indoctrinated into the shark watching movies with me since birth because she had to be. But my sister and her friend are not, they haven't gotten into that. So, all of these things happen and the big shark jumps out and the other shark, all these things happen and they are freaking out. They are scared to death because I think my sister's she's like, is this a documentary? I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's not, but
I
okay.
don't think Samuel L. Jackson was
No,
actually in the ocean.
Jason Statham's not in there. Samuel L. Jackson didn't get eaten by the shark in a
Exactly.
facility, which is, I had heard younger kids watching that a couple of weeks ago. And I just literally recorded them watching his big speech in front of the big open tank of water behind him. And I'm like, I wonder what's going to happen. And
Yes.
I like getting the looks of shock and revulsion on their face before then they laugh because they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. But
Yeah.
so this was right up my wheelhouse. So.
As you said, this flavor of cheesy shark movie does tend to follow the same beats. They're usually completely, utterly predictable. But that is one reason why I'm drawn to them, is that you know what to expect going in, and your hope will be that it will deliver on all those cheesy beats. I am also a fan of shark movies. I think probably not quite to your extent, but I saw Sharknado, the riff tracks treatment of it in theaters, which was great fun. When I was telling my husband about Thrash here, which he did not watch with me, but I was telling him about it, and he's like, what, was the name Sharkacane taken? And I was like, well, yes, actually,
I
was.
said her a shark. I've got on my list as like, was her a shark taken by another movie?
Apparently, they say the word Sharkacane in Sharknado 3. So I guess Thrash didn't want to step on any toes, so to speak.
Well, it's funny. When we watched Sharknado for the episode for Shark Month, I had not seen it before because I was like, this looks stupid. So I did not get onto it. So again, this is probably a decade after the first Sharknado came out, and we watched the movie for the show. And when I was promoting it on social media, I'm tagging Sharknado in it, as you would. And I actually had the director of Sharknado reply to my post that I think basically I was like, was the chainsaw the best weapon of choice? I would think you would prefer a ranged weapon to a melee. And so he actually replies back with, interesting point, though we went with a chainsaw because lightsabers aren't real. And I was like, but tornado sharks are, sir, sure. Like,
I can picture it now. Sharks in space with lightsabers, yes.
I was mostly just laughing that this guy is still trolling the hashtag Sharknado, like,
oh,
for
like
10
decades
years
later.
Yeah, because I didn't tag him. I just hashtagged it, and he just popped up out of nowhere. So that's always fun. But yeah, so I live on the Texas Gulf Coast. I live 20 miles from Galveston. We get the hurricanes directly. We get the flooding directly. And I'm like, have we ever heard of a shark swimming up the street? No. Well, my husband's Googling it. He's like,
with climate change, you never know, right?
Yeah. Well, we built a much larger seawall after 1900. That was kind of a mess. But we actually, I was like, I wonder if there were sharks in the street for that one. Because, I mean, pretty much. And then my husband Googled it, and I think it came back with, there are no credible eyewitness reports to sharks swimming in the streets. I was like, yeah, but everyone was dead. Like, the entire island is a cemetery. So.
Well, we can dissect some of the deaths in Thrash here.
Yes.
But before we do dive into Thrash, here is a quick overview of how Chekhov's Whatever works. This is a podcast where myself and the guest watch and review a movie that's new to us. We also play a game where we try to guess what Chekhov's gun will be and how it will play out later in the movie. Chekhov's gun is a plot element that must have a setup and a payoff. That setup usually happens in Act 1, and the payoff typically comes later in Act 3. A Chekhov's gun is also typically a concrete item, action, or person, rather than something symbolic or thematic. And finally, a Chekhov's gun should move the plot forward. We get 2 points if we correctly identify a Chekhov's gun. We also get an additional point if we correctly guess exactly how that Chekhov's gun will pay off. And finally, we lose 1 point if we incorrectly identify a Chekhov's gun and its role. Whoever has the most points at the end of the movie wins, and whoever loses gets thrown to the sharks. So in our opening scene of Thrash, the fictional coastal town of Annieville, South Carolina, is bracing for Hurricane Henry, a Category 5 storm. Or as some characters in the movie say, they should invent Category 6 for this
Almost
one.
a Category 6. They say that every time we get a hurricane rolling in. This is going to be the big one. And then it hits us as like a tropical storm. And we're all like,
It's the storm of the century. Just kidding.
Every year, the 500-year storm of the century.
Exactly. We meet one of our many protagonists and potential shark victims, Dakota, as played by Whitney Peak. She is a shut-in who has been battling anxiety and panic attacks ever since her mom's death. In this first scene, I do have my first guess. I am guessing Chekhov's Xanax.
There was a giant bottle of Xanax
Yes.
on the counter. So.
There was a giant bottle of Xanax, and it's one of those close-up shots where, you know, we're just meeting the characters, and I was battling with like, well, is this the movie just really spelling out for the audience, like, hey, this girl has anxiety, you know? So I did entertain that option, but I was also like, I don't know, I could foresee her using her prescription meds to drug a shark, perhaps poison a shark. Small note about this introduction to the character. So Dakota is calling a restaurant on the phone for delivery of food. And I'm like, I just refuse to believe that this girl who's probably like 20 is calling a restaurant on the phone.
Yeah.
Especially if
There
she
would have
has
been an app,
anxiety.
yeah.
I'm just like, no one is calling for delivery on a phone.
No, there's an app for that.
Immediately, this movie is just too unbelievable. We then meet our other potential victims, main characters, Dee, Ron, and Will, a trio of lovable, down-on-their-luck Southern kids. They are 3 siblings in foster care with a strict, stingy foster father named Mr. Olson. Place your bets, Mr. Olson gotta get chomped, right?
Yeah, I named them the swamp rats because if you ever hang out around in those kind of areas like Louisiana and places, even here in Texas, we've got a lot of swampland. So there's always and I have the cousins. I have a whole set of cousins that is there. They're swimming in the bayou. They're doing all of those things. So I was like, swamp rats, you're gonna make it. Like I was like, you're gonna make it. But yeah, Mr. Olson drives up to scream at them because he's a terrible human. And I'm like, that man seems in it for the checks. I'm just throwing that part out there.
For the foster government
For
checks,
the foster,
yes.
yeah. But as soon as he drives up, I found my first Chekhov's gun. And it was Chekhov's snorkel truck.
Snorkel truck.
Yeah, the snorkel truck. So I see this truck, and the snorkel is not prominent. But as someone who lives in this area and knows a lot of people who run in this type of environment, I'm like, that grown man's going to get eaten because he's terrible, and terrible people do get eaten in bad movies as well. And those kids are going to use that snorkel truck to make it to safety. That was my first guess, right as soon as that truck pulled up. So fingers crossed on that because those kids deserve better.
When we were meeting the kids, as you said, they're lovable. You're rooting for them. I did ask myself, though, like, is this movie brave enough to have a lovable child get chomped by a shark?
It wouldn't be the first one.
Right. But I was like, my estimation of this movie was that I didn't think it was brave enough to do so. But, you know.
Yeah, I think Jaws hit that one pretty hard with
Yes.
little Alex Kipner on the beach there. I think he the whole town took that really hard, but not hard enough to stay out of the water because, just one chompy kid.
just one
that's
shark.
fine. Just one guy. It's totally fine. What's one kid's life compared to our summer of fun and our, island's total value of commerce? But yeah, when the kids are diving, because they're diving in and out of the swamp, like off of a giant tree and into unknown depth of water, and there could be all sorts of things in there, and the kid doesn't come back up for a while. And so they're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? I'm like, it's the beginning of the movie. So
Way too early for chomping. Yes.
yeah, he's going to pop back up. We've seen no chompers yet, but we do have things that lead to chomping, and that comes pretty quick, I think. So
Exactly. Yes, in our next scene, we cut to McKay's Meats. This is Annieville's meat packing plant.
This is this was the biggest, like, wow, I wonder what might happen with that big mountain of meat that is happening 2 feet from the coastline when the giant storm of the century is about to come in and there will be flooding. I'm like,
Could it perhaps be, I don't know, Chekhov's tanker full of meat?
that was a thought. It could definitely qualify there because probably there would have been fewer sharks swimming directly to where the lady is stuck in her car. Who is Daphne from Bridgerton, by the way?
Yes, well,
I was like, is that her with the worst American accent I've ever heard? But sure.
so yes, also in this scene, we do meet Daphne from Bridgerton, Phoebe Devenner. She is playing a character named Lisa in this movie, and she is an employee of the meatpacking plant. So yes, you mentioned Daphne and Bridgerton. There's often times when actors pop up on Netflix properties where they're like cross-pollinated between different Netflix properties. And I'm like, what did this person have to sign in their contract with Netflix in order to appear in Thrash, for example?
Well, also, she's the only other face in the entire movie I've ever seen before other than Jimon Husen, or
Yes.
Hunsu, the only one that I've ever seen. So I'm like, girl, you're gonna make it. Like,
Yes.
I've seen your face. You're gonna live.
Exactly. So yes, Lisa, aka Daphne, she is also very heavily pregnant. And of course, it is a truth universally acknowledged that a pregnant woman in a film must give birth on screen. So I have no question at all that this movie is not brave enough to have a newborn baby eaten by a shark. So I know that there will be tension, I assume, in the birth, which obviously has to come later, but there ain't no way this baby's getting eaten by a shark, right? I mean, maybe Lisa will dramatically sacrifice herself for her new baby. I'm not quite sure.
Yeah, I caught something because she is in her car FaceTiming her mother because she's trying to drive out of town because the roads are flooding. Because that's when we leave, is when the roads are. I live here. That's when the roads are flooding and the branches are coming down and the meat packing truck blocks your way. That's when you get in the car and you FaceTime your mother.
Totally.
And her mother is one saying, you need to get out of town. Your fiance's a louse, like all these kind of things. Like, don't worry about him. But I think you should consider a water birth.
Yes.
Because it's natural and peaceful. And I said, that's Chekhov's water birth. Because what I assume will happen, given my great love of these movies, and the reason for that being none other, like, why would that even come up in conversation while you're struggling to get out of town in a flood, is that Miss Lisa is going to somehow have to have a water birth in shark-infested waters.
Absolutely.
With her own body chumming the place up just to, get to that last, final shark boss kind of thing. So that's my second official Chekhov's water birth.
I did also flag this as something I wanted to speak about. I ultimately didn't make it an official guess because I would slot this perhaps into the category of foreshadowing, but we can certainly litigate this at the end of the episode.
Sure.
And finally, we are introduced to Dr. Dale Edwards, as played by Jimon Onsu. He is a marine biologist and a shark expert. How convenient.
It's very convenient.
Dr. Edwards is also Dakota's uncle, and he urges Dakota to leave town, but she decides to stay and shelter in place because she's just that afraid of leaving her home.
She can't even go to the restaurant to get food. How is she going to leave town? She also seemed to have no mode of transportation, and I'm not sure how she's living in that house because, according to weird neighbor guys she runs into for no reason, she hasn't left the house since her mother died months ago. So,
well, the reason was obviously clunky exposition.
Well,
so that we can learn that her mother died.
Somebody has to move the plot forward because it wasn't going to be her. No. I don't know if she said more than 40 words in the whole movie.
Yeah, she says shark probably a dozen times.
She said, fuck this a couple times, but that was kind of like, mostly she just slid down the wall and had a panic attack. And I'm
Yeah.
like, girl, get your Xanax. Like, she left it on the counter. I never saw the Xanax again. I was like, where is it? Why is it not in your pocket? Mine is in my pocket right now on this podcast.
For some reason, her jumper, sweater, whatever you want to call it, it really reminded me of the yellow Kill Bill jumpsuit that Uma Thurman wears. So it just gave me the wrong impression visually that this character was going to be like very kick-ass. You know, I was like, you look like you belong in Kill Bill.
Well, I will say, in 100% counterpoint to that, in the shark marine biology community, yellow is known as yum yum yellow because it is highly visually contrasted for the sharks because they don't see full color spectrum like, or the same spectrum that we do, but they really like yellow.
Oh,
It's delicious. So
good to know.
I was like, I didn't think of it at the time, but now that you said the yellow, I'm like, that is not the color you want to go swimming in. I'm just throw it out there.
Her uncle, the shark expert, should have
He
warned
should
her.
have. There should be a list on the wall. You live 12 feet from the seawall. Her
In
house,
case
you
of
can
shark.
see it. It's right there. In case of shark, break the glass.
Exactly. So Dakota is hunkered down at home watching home movies of her late mom. This is my next guess, Chekhov's gun stability. So in this home video, a young Dakota is playing Nerf gun battles with her mom. And her mom rests the Nerf gun on a ledge and she says, "See, it's stable, much easier to hit." So I'm imagining that there will be a scene later in the movie where Dakota will have to shoot a shark, of course, and she'll be having trouble aiming, but then she will remember her mom's advice and she'll be able to stabilize the gun and shoot the shark.
Yeah, I did notice the Nerf gun as well. And I was like, it's a literal Chekhov's plastic gun.
Yes, indeed. Chekhov's Nerf gun. I should change my answer to Chekhov's Nerf gun just because it's more fun to say. So between these scenes with Dakota and Lisa, we also occasionally cut back to the trio of swamp rats, their foster parents, and their not so happy home life. So speaking of guns, this is my next and I believe my final guess, which is Chekhov's literal guns. If there's a literal gun in a movie, I just have to point it out. So the foster parents, they're kind of survivalist adjacent. So they have a very well appointed basement, including like, you know, a chest freezer and waterproof wires and a whole rack of rifles. And they also say that this basement is off limits to the kids. So I think that later the kids will collect these rifles and, you know, shoot some sharks with them.
Yeah, I noticed in this, because kind of jumping back from the first swamp rat scene, the girl's like, hey, after the storm, only 2 more days until school starts and we can eat every day.
Mm-hmm.
So they are not being properly cared for by these foster monsters at home at all. They are very skinny. They are dirty. They are, you know, they are very bedraggled looking. They could not have made them look more pitiful. And so we do get to that basement scene. And first, I am 100% thrown back to the basement scene in Tremors.
Tremors, yes.
You got Reba down there with her arsenal and all of that, which cracked me up. And the thing that I picked up on wasn't so much the guns as it was the stakes. So the kids are hungry. The little girl wanders downstairs because she's scared of the weather. And, you know, the dad's like, these windows are bulletproof. I installed them myself. I'm like, that's going to go well. You look like you don't know what you're doing. But so she goes down to the basement and they have the fridge open for some reason. She's like, is that steak? And they're like, that's not for you. Get upstairs and eat your single slice of bread. That's all you get, blah, blah, blah. And you do see the guns and whatever. But I came back to the steaks.
Yes.
Because they're hungry kids. They've got the steaks. So what are we going to do with steaks? Maybe we bait sharks later.
Attract some sharks?
Maybe we use this to distract some sharks. I don't know. So that's I had to check off steak. But again, the guns were very reminiscent of the whole Tremors basement.
Yes.
And also, I want to see these two people eaten more than anything I've ever wanted to see in my life. Ever. Like, the dad is terrible. The mom, she barely says 3 words. But she reminds me so much of the foster mom from Terminator 2. So John Connor has a foster mom in this movie, and she is mean and she is nasty and she wants to kick the dog, like all this kind of stuff. And then she gets taken over by like the T-1000 or whatever he is, the bad metal guy, and, dies. And it's delightful to see because I hate bad foster parents. That's like, eh. So, yeah. So I was like, I have never wanted to see two people in any movie more. Like, and these people are barely in the movie and I already viscerally hate them. Like,
Fortunately, this type of heel character almost always gets their just desserts in a shark movie.
yeah, because if they don't, it's not a happily ever after at the end of this movie because they're surviving and it's like, no, you don't get to live to cheat another day.
Yeah. So finally, this Category 5 hurricane makes landfall, breaking down the levees and flooding the town.
Been there.
Minus the sharks.
Yeah, as far as I know.
So the tanker of meat is swamped by the floodwaters. It crashes against a statue and breaks open, releasing torrents of blood into the waters. Unfortunately for Lisa, she also gets trapped in her car in the flood, pinned against a tree that is right next to the tanker.
And perfectly timed around her very pregnant belly.
Yes, she's very lucky in a way because the tree branch, spears just in front of her, kind of like an extra seatbelt that she can't take off.
but she also can't get out, and
Yes.
now the waters are rising. And she's in a Mini Cooper, a convertible Mini Cooper. I'm like, ma'am, open the top.
Ma'am.
Literally anything.
Where Lisa's car is pinned is on the street right outside of Dakota's home. So Dakota looks on from the upper level of her house. Meanwhile, the trio of kids are stranded in their own flooded foster home. So the scene is set, so to speak.
Yes.
A couple of well-meaning dudes try to free Lisa from her car, but they are our first victims. They soon become shark bait, as does the tanker driver, R.I.P.
Why did that guy even open the door? He was 12 feet above the water, and he opens the door, and the shark jumps in and grabs him.
Yes.
I'm like, listen, I understand. These are bull sharks. We never see bull sharks in a shark movie. Very rare, very rare. They are the most dangerous shark, to be honest. They really are. Everybody's scared of the great white. Well, guess what? The great white doesn't swim up into your backwater canal, but a bull shark absolutely can. So they're terrifying, and they're, more accessible, I guess, than a giant 25-foot, behemoth shark. They take up more space and need a lot more water. So they make it a point. They're like, these are bull sharks.
Yes.
They can swim in both. And they tend to go up the river when the bad storm comes in. I'm like, you don't say, exposition man. Thank you for your service.
On that note, what you were saying about how this is realistic to a certain extent as far as bull shark behavior goes, I did appreciate that this movie, despite the very outlandish premise, the sharks themselves mostly act like sharks. I mean, they do seem way more aggressive, obviously, than I would assume your average shark would be. But, they're like, oh, the tanker of meat is chumming the waters. Other things are chumming the waters later to try to give a reason for why these sharks would be so aggressive. Yeah. So, I don't know. I kind of appreciated that about the movie.
The bull shark in and of itself has the highest level of testosterone of pretty much any other animal. Like they are way up there. So they are very aggressive just because they're dicks. Like they're just the assholes of the shark community. They're like that guy that if you bump him on the street, he's like, like has that over aggressive response, as opposed to just being like, oops, sorry, like a normal, whatever. So I do like that. I'm with you on that. These are not, freaking laser sharks with laser beams on their freaking heads, like in a deep blue sea kind of fashion. We have not genetically modified these sharks to the point where they are sentient and actively, planning to get, no, they're just sharks.
Yes. Yeah. They're not velociraptor planning.
You put, they got displaced. There's water, there's things happening. They're not opening doors. people, stop opening your doors. They can't open them on their own. Like, if they flood through Bob's bad window, then sure. But otherwise, they're not. Yeah.
To what you just said, those characters make many stupid choices throughout this movie. And I guess that's in the vein of your average horror movie. But I do feel like these are more successful when the characters act, not like a bunch of dum-dums.
But I will also say again, average humans behave like dum-dums when they are in panic.
That's true.
And I think that's kind of, like Dakota, even though she has like physical, visceral panic attacks and is down on the floor shaking, she is still making better decisions than the guy in the meat truck who's like, I should open the door that is underwater, which one would be very difficult to do because water pressure, very heavy. There were several instances of close the door. What? Your house is flooded 6 feet, honey. You're not going to be able to close the door. It's not a bathtub. Like, it doesn't work that way. So, but I do think that, humans do panic and do silly things. But I think it also kind of goes to, like, I am a person, I do have like generalized panic disorder. I absolutely have suffered with that for many years, have worked very hard on that in a lot of cases, and will freak out over the dumbest things possible. The mail, I don't care for it. Like, the wind blows the wrong way sometimes. It just gets you. But in a crisis, my panic turns to total focus because I live in chaos. So when chaos hits, I am the one who is zeroed in and get it. So I think that's like a Dakota character right there.
Mm-hmm.
She has this debilitating panic disorder, but when it comes time to figure it out, she absolutely does. But I will say that when, the car's there and the shed floats up perfectly, not sure why, my husband's like, this feels like a video game where she has to go down this thing and jump over that thing and get to the whatever. And I'm like, yeah, she has to go downstairs for something. I thought she was going for the Xanax. 100%. And I'm still, girl, get your Xanax. Like, she didn't need it. She got a knife. Good for her. Don't know what she thought she was going to do with a kitchen knife and a tree branch, but you know what? Make a decision. You got to do what you got with what you got. So
True.
And I would say living in a land that floods a lot. Like, fortunately, where my house is built up, my neighborhood is built up massively high. You have to go kind of uphill to get to the driveway for a bit because we, again, I live 20 miles from the Gulf Coast. Like, we absolutely will get, rain, wind, and storm surge, which is all very dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't worry about a shark in the street, first of all, because I'm not going to be in the street. That's never going to be a thing. What I have found to be the scariest thing in all flooding situations I have ever been in or around is giant floating balls of ants, fire ants. Because the second that ball touches something solid, it goes scampering up. And then, I was like, that scares me more than an alligator. And again, my uncle lives on a creek. His house flooded. We were there doing things. I'm like, I don't give a shit. That thing has seen people forever. Those ants, they're just mad. And they sting and they hurt. And there's a million of them. So,
Sounds like you've got a pitch for the next Netflix movie.
Balls.
Ant balls.
I'll call the Sharknado guy. He can make ant balls the breakfast cereal. I don't know.
From the creators of Sharknado, we bring you ant balls.
Ant balls.
Dakota is a little cooler under pressure than Lisa. I did think it was funny in this scene with the two men and the tanker driver being eaten by sharks. So Dakota, she kind of has a better view on the scene and she's yelling out from the window, shark, shark, But Lisa, on the other hand, is yelling out, swim. And I'm like, girl, I don't think that's good advice. And also not very helpful.
She was talking to the guy who had already been eaten by a shark, or like partially. Because what else is he going to do? Like, he was stuck in the water.
That makes it also totally useless advice because it's like, no shit. What else am I going to do in flood waters? Yeah.
People do tend to yell stupid shit like that, though. Keep running!
Right.
What do you think I'm doing?
Thanks. I thought I might stop for a moment. Yeah.
Now, the shark spotting, again, very, very helpful. That is Absolutely. What you need to know. So
So Dr. Edwards decides to go back and try to save his niece Dakota from the floodwaters with the help of a news crew who's just in it for the story. So, we go back and forth to these guys occasionally throughout the movie. I probably won't be mentioning it again because they're kind of useless scenes.
I will say they do two things that made me really laugh. The first is they conveniently decide to get out of their truck and get into their boat, which is a dinghy with a motor, not a big boat. It is a literal lifeboat kind of situation at the 100-mile mark from Annieville. So they're going to start their journey in a dinghy with 100 miles to go and think they're going to get somewhere in time, which is one. Two, now they seem to only have been tracking the storm when this first started with them. All of a sudden, they now have a pregnant, for no reason, great white shark that they have tagged and been researching. It's been pregnant for 4 years, according to them, that is headed straight towards Dakota's house.
Of course.
And they can see that clearly. There's Dakota's house. Here's the shark. But they have 100 miles to go in a dinghy, and they're going to get there on time.
In the nick of time, even, perhaps.
In the nick of time. And I'm like, sure, that's perfect.
Meanwhile, back with the swamp rats, the kids look on in horror as their foster parents are dismembered and seemingly devoured by the sharks. Yay!
Well, so remember I mentioned the snorkel truck earlier? The kids also go, the snorkel. And the mom's like, what good is a snorkel? She's thinking like a snorkeling mask. What good is a snorkel going to do? And he's like, the one on the truck, dummy. And they're like, oh, that's right. We have an amphibious truck, basically, that has a snorkel. We should leave these foster kids here at the house by themselves and make it to the truck. But sadly, Sharky Karma jumps up and immediately Mr. Bad Dad gets his arm bit off.
Yes, so he's got this big bloody stump.
Driving arm. Yeah.
Much like Dakota, the kids are also shouting shark at them. But by the time they say this, Mr. Olson's arm has already been chomped off.
I know, they're like,
so again, it's
no,
like, well, thanks.
Shark,
That's not so helpful.
Shark. I don't think they were trying to be helpful for the parents. So the parents were leaving them. They're like, you left us. It's a Jurassic Park nod right there.
As I say, to quote Jurassic Park. Meanwhile, from her trapped car, Lisa appeals to Dakota for help. She pleads on behalf of her unborn child, and Dakota finally overcomes her fear and anxiety to assist Lisa. As you mentioned, she grabs a kitchen knife from her flooded home, and she saws through the convertible top of Lisa's car and also saws through the tree branch that was pinning Lisa, so she successfully frees her. Yay.
One person saved for the moment.
For the moment, yes. So they retreat to Dakota's home, but bad news for them. As you mentioned, Nellie, the pregnant great white shark that Dr. Edwards had tagged, has just pinged near Dakota's home. And even more bad news for them, Lisa is now in labor and the baby is coming very soon. Because of course it is.
That scene of I need you to look, which was just hysterical. I was like, what are you? So I'm going to put a blanket over my legs, even though I'm wearing a dress.
Yes.
And you need to look and tell me how big it is and what things. And like, this girl is, I don't know, the girl does not look older than like 15 years old, to be honest. Why she's living alone in this house, I assume she's an adult, but again, not looking like one. And a woman having absolutely no idea what another woman is talking about when it comes to, hey, maybe, see if there's a head coming out of my body. Could you check that for me?
Yes, Lisa, I think, was asking and expecting a bit much from Dakota. She's like, tell me exactly how many millimeters I'm dilated. It's like, how?
She's like, you mean like inches? I'm like, what is that gonna, you tell me, lady.
Yeah, she's like bossing poor Dakota around and being honestly kind of mean to her about it. And it's like, Lisa, I understand it's a stressful situation. You're giving birth to a child in shark-infested floodwaters, but, maybe be a little bit nicer to your rescuer.
With a one single Tylenol.
Yeah, that's rough. That's rough.
I felt for that one, so.
Yeah. We cut to interstitial scenes of the three kids. They are still trapped in their bull shark infested home, but they have a plan. They decide to try to go to the off-limits basement and retrieve some of those guns to fight off the sharks. And, since this basement was off-limits to them and Mr. Olsen would yell at them whenever they would go in the basement, they're sort of giving each other this like rallying cry to like get up the courage to go into the basement. So they're like, fuck Mr. Olsen. Yeah, fuck Mr.
him.
Olsen.
Fuck that guy.
And I'm like, cue Mr. Olsen's corpse popping out of the water in 3, 2, 1. But the movie did surprise me. It was not Mr. Olsen's corpse. It was, in fact, Mr. Olsen still alive somehow, even though all he has is a bloody stump for an arm.
Oh, and he also immediately tells them, it bit my ass off. So apparently the second time he got bit by the bull shark, after it chomped his arm off, it also took off a butt cheek.
Apparently.
He's trying to lay up on the island where the kids are with his, like, I guess, missing butt in the air. I don't know. And the kids are just like, what the fuck do we do now? Like, what do we do with this asshole? And is that when they find the check?
They do. So the kids find a floating check in the water from the government. They're the stipends that the parents are given, for fostering them. And that's when they discover the deception that the parents have been, instead of providing for the children, they have been splurging on steaks for themselves.
Was that a $1,500 check? Those kids had a right to be pissed. They're like, we've been eating nothing but bread for years.
Yeah, all we got is Wonder Bread. Yeah, so the kids kick his grifter ass, or what remains of it, I suppose, into the shark-infested waters. And while the sharks are distracted by devouring Mr. Olsen for reals this time, Ron, the older child, swims to the basement, and he receives some steaks and a mysterious box. It turns out this box contains sticks of dynamite.
I was like, every swamp rat's dream. His eyes lit up, and I think there was a little anime sparkle going on there.
Probably.
He was delighted. It was like, we have got meat, and we have boomsticks, and we have fish. Like, that's boom.
Meat plus dynamite. What more could you ask for? Night falls and Dakota bravely resolves to retrieve a stranded canoe to boat Lisa and herself to safety. She remembers that her uncle told her that sharks respond to vibrations and draws them away with an electric toothbrush and such in floating plastic bags.
Were you waiting for vibrators to come out? Because I 100% was. I was like...
Well, she was like, I need something battery powered that vibrates. I'm like, okay, like,
vibrator, where is it? Where's your little egg? Throw it out there, lady. Like, the jackrabbit of doom out there. I don't know.
I was expecting a rabbit to make an appearance as well. Yeah.
I saw no vibrators. I'm surprised. I was a little disappointed that they didn't go straight for that. I mean, it's not like we have a G-rated movie going on to begin with, but I guess a vibrator was a step too far for a man's shark movie.
It's not like they're too good for the low-hanging fruit joke. Like, this movie grasps at all the other low-hanging fruits. So.
Yeah, I was like, a man directed this. I'm just going to throw that. Like, a man wrote this movie and missed the very obvious, like, I got a drawer full of vibrating things that'll float off in a plastic bag to scare the sharks away.
You mentioned Tremors before. I also had Tremors vibes with we gotta distract him with the vibrators.
The little vibrating thing out. Yep.
Exactly.
There was a lot of nods to better cheese movies, because a lot of these movies that they even based their stuff off were cheesy themselves, like Tremors, which I still love though. Tremors is a fucking classic. Like, it is
S tier gold star movie.
It's like, I'm not following further down the Tremors path than the first one, because then you just end up on a runaway train of Sharknado 12. But the originals of these are usually worth the watch and to add to your list of things to go with. But yeah, there was just a lot of picking and choosing from other things. So
I will say, and I think I've said this on the podcast before, I do find it unfortunate when I'm watching a movie and I'm reminded of a much better movie that I could be watching instead.
Yeah, that is very true.
So despite the vibrating diversions, Dakota only narrowly escapes Nellie the Great White, but she does make it to the canoe.
But Nellie the Great White does, in fact, scare off the bull sharks.
That is true.
At this point, I have a nod of basically Chekhov's great white shark versus the bull sharks in a very Jurassic Park T-Rex versus the velociraptors, assuming a similar outcome at the end, that the small sharks will be ganging up and then the big shark will come in and finish the job or scare them or do whatever big sharks do.
Is this an official guess?
That is an official guess. Chekhov's jump the shark.
So speaking of that trope, we do get a scene with Dr. Edwards and the news crew on their way to Annieville. And Dr. Edwards explains that bull sharks only fear bigger sharks, like our great white, and they can be distracted by electrical currents. I call this trope in my notes, there's always a bigger fish, to quote Qui-Gon Jinn in The Phantom Menace.
I will say that is one of the funnier lines that kind of comes out in this movie. I think because there wasn't a lot of like slapstick humor or just even dry wit humor. There's really no humor going on other than us laughing at it on this side of the screen, except when he is telling the story about the hippo being chased off by the shark. Oh, I guess what did the guy say? The newscaster, because this newscaster was an idiot. He basically says like, what did you do? Run back to your village and ask for da da? Because it was like in, I don't know if it was Zambia or wherever he said he was.
Yeah, and he's like, did you go back to your hut for a spear?
And he goes, no, I went back to my condo and called the police because I don't live in the fucking jungle. Like, what was
and
this?
had pizza.
It was like a really funny, like, and the guy's like, and then he went back to his hut, just kind of.
Right. So Dr. Edwards, he had just mentioned the bull shark's weaknesses, including electrical currents, and fortuitously enough, they happened to come across a SWAT van in that moment with several tasers hanging from the side of the SWAT van.
I know. I was like, get the taser, get
it. Yes. Very lucky that they should happen upon that. As your husband was saying, the other scenes felt very reminiscent of a video game.
Yep.
Again, it's like, oh, you should acquire this special weapon before the boss fight.
Exactly. Grab the treasure, grab the loot.
So dawn is approaching, and with the water levels rising, Lisa is forced to swim away from the collapsing home. Clinging to floating debris, she gives birth in the water. This was maybe the fastest birth from like pushing to baby I think I've ever seen on film. She's like, oh, okay, here's the baby.
my dorky nerd ass was like, Charles Leboyer would be so proud, because I was the guy who like invented the water birth method, or invented, quote, quote, back in the like 70s or whatever. It's really big. Like when I think my brother was born, as like 79, my brother was born, and they would float the babies after birth because it was supposed to, so it's like this Leboyer method is what it was called. And so of course I'm thinking of this, but also I'm looking at my Chekhov's water birth. As she, shoots this baby out, she also releases 47 pints of blood.
Yes.
It is as large a blood slick as what the meat truck left behind visually. And I'm like, that is not how that works. However, it does go to my point that she is going to become human chum with her water birth. So
this woman needs medical attention, like stat.
Severely. Yeah, she's going to bleed out.
And even at the height of, water birth popularity, I highly doubt that it was ever recommended to give birth in, polluted floodwaters.
That's the thing. I think people who've never lived in storm-prone areas do not understand that is just like wet botulism. That is lit. Every nasty thing you can imagine is in that water.
Yeah, you don't want to be in there.
No. Just I see people out playing in it all the time. Like the last big hurricane that we had one that was actually a much smaller hurricane come through 2 years ago, like ripped our roof off. We lost half of our fence. So we've never lost anything at our place before that. But also our roof was probably in need of going anyway. So, it is what it is. But the one before that was Hurricane Harvey in 2017. Like my poor cousin lost her house 3 years in a row from like full flooding. Like they basically had to tear it down, put it up on stilts, like all this stuff. And this has happened my whole life. I've been here like 1981, Hurricane Alicia. Like we had all these big storms my whole life. And the amount of people that just think it is a good old time to get out in a canoe or just in their bare feet and just slosh around in flood water. And I am like, you are going to get gangrene, sir. And that ant ball is going to get you. And I will laugh. Do not come running to my house with the ant ball. But
The ant ball.
I'm telling you, I'm more worried about the ant ball than anything else because, good God, they are horrifying.
I'm imagining a Indiana Jones caliber boulder of ant
Yeah,
ball.
like, okay, so you can see me. I'm talking, they are big balls and they're tiny ants. So if you think about how many ants have to be in there to create this like beach ball size ball of stinging fury, and if you have an ant, an ant allergy, a fire ant allergy, forget it, you're toast.
I've been stung by fire ants.
Oh yeah.
No, thank you. Not signing up to do it again anytime
on my
soon.
watch. Nope.
So Lisa recovers from her birth almost as quickly as she gave birth,
Yeah.
and she immediately defends her newborn.
She does cut the umbilical cord with like a stick or something. Like it was not sanitary.
Nothing about this
And
is
doesn't
sanitary.
tie it off. Nothing. She just leaves the baby with a 2 foot long umbilicus, like just hanging off of it, floats it on a box like Rose in the Titanic.
I mean, she did have other priorities at the moment,
She
like
did,
not
but I'm
getting
like,
chomped.
you're not going to fit on that door with that baby. So,
It's like she never watched Titanic.
clearly did not.
But fortunately for her, Dakota on the canoe comes to her rescue. She takes aim at a bull shark charging towards Lisa, and she steadies the spear gun on the hull of the boat and hits the shark.
She just happened to float right past that sporting goods store and grab that spear gun out of the window because that's where you leave them.
Very lucky. Meanwhile, the swamp rats bait a bundle of dynamite with the stakes and blow the sharks to bloody smithereens.
And
Yay.
get a big woohoo!
A woohoo! Bullhorn noise.
Yep.
Dakota is about to pull Lisa and her CGI baby to safety in the boat, but a shark capsizes the canoe.
Of course he does. Because again, bull sharks are just dicks.
The assholes of the
They
ocean.
are the assholes of the ocean and the creeks and the rivers and the all the because they can swim in both fresh and salt. That's why they're
New nightmare
terrifying.
unlocked.
Yeah.
Right when the girls are about to get chomped, Dr. Edwards arrives just in time and disorients the bull sharks with the tasers. Very convenient. But one last bull shark is still charging toward the girls. Cue Nellie, the great white shark. She chomps the smaller shark, saving the girls. And I put in my notes, mother solidarity was Nellie, the pregnant great white. She was like, I got you, girl. I'm going to protect
Thanks for the
pregnant
hormone
mother.
bloods. Good times.
Yeah.
I need it for my next 6 years of pregnancy.
Rough. Dakota, Lisa, and her baby are rescued by Dr. Edwards, and they boat off into a brand new day. And I wondered, but they couldn't film this scene together? ? There seemed to be some weird green screen going on here where no one was quite directly looking at each other, and Lisa and Dakota were never on the screen again. I don't know.
It was probably one of those we ran out of days on set for you contractually
Yes.
and just put you in afterwards. I had two thoughts here. One, when they pull Lisa into the dinghy, she is 100% skinny again. She has just given birth, but now she has absolutely no baby bump left at all. And anyone who is a birth-giving person knows that ain't the truth. So that was funny. But the second one, I sat there watching them talk back and forth or whatever in that, and I'm like, if she does not name that baby Dakota, regardless of its gender, I will be pissed. No name for the baby by the end of the movie.
No.
Found that very dissatisfying.
I don't think we even know whether it's a girl or a boy or not. I'm not sure.
So. It was naked on that thing. We should have been able to, but that was covered by the 12-foot umbilical cord hanging off, I guess. I don't know.
We cut back for one last scene with the three kids. They resolve to make new lives for themselves too, and they drive away in the snorkel truck.
The snorkel truck.
So the swamp rat plotline, if we want to call it that, even though these kids were probably arguably the most likable characters in the movie, anytime we cut to their scenes, it just killed any tension or momentum the movie had. I kept expecting that the storylines would converge.
Well, I did too. I figure, but I started like kind of realizing they were in very different parts of this flooded area. They are not like you would think, oh, they would be on like two streets down. And at one point, they, again, like a Jurassic Park, we have team A, team B, and eventually they come together and all escape together. This was two totally separate movies.
And I feel like it was weaker for it. Like, it did not coalesce in a satisfying way. And yeah, speaking of Jurassic Park, I also felt there was a big parallel in the structure of the movie with Jurassic World Rebirth, which also had like a sort of family kid side plot line. And I don't know, it just felt like a tension killer to me, and it wasn't terribly successful in my opinion.
Yeah, again, there were two independent movies happening, and both were okay, but putting them together just did not work. It's like a peanut butter and ham sandwich, I think. So.
So it seems like a happy ending for all of our characters, but like all cheesy horror movies, it has to end with a twist. So we see yet another Category 5 hurricane headed for the coast, and then we smash cut to the credits.
I know, I was like, cool.
The end. So yeah, that is Thrash.
That is Thrash.
What was your overall impression of this movie? How did it rank among your cheesy shark movie oeuvre?
Like I said, I am shocked that the critics gave it as high a score as they did. Like as a watcher of these kind of movies, I would have probably ranked it similarly in that, maybe in the like 38 to 40 kind of percent category for this type of movie. I think your average moviegoer is going to be like, huh, or whoa, that was something, and then move on with life. I don't think it's one that I'm going to revisit, to be honest.
No.
And I will not be around for Thrash 2, where they have even fewer people of recognition.
They'll have to pull some more contractually obligated Bridgerton cast members.
We get the guy, Daphne's husband from season 1, get him in there.
I wish.
I know. I would watch that. Yeah. I did. Like I said, it was fun, and my husband really enjoyed watching it for the Chekhov's whatevers, trying to pick them out. He's like, "This is actually a really fun way." I was like, "It's a really annoying way if you're around people who think they're actually watching a movie for movie's sake." But I love it. It was fantastic.
Oh, I'm glad you enjoyed it.
We had a great time doing it, and quite honestly, we will probably be doing it from now until the end of time.
That's the best news I could possibly hear. Yeah, and I think what you said is a fair critique. I do just want to quote a review that I read because I feel like it just honestly really perfectly encapsulates what my thoughts were. So this is from a review written by Brian Tellerico, who writes for RogerEbert.com. He says, quote, "Thrash is an aggressively stupid movie, and I like well done, aggressively stupid movies. Much to the disappointment of a critic who is actually pretty excited for a movie that combined sharks with a hurricane, this ain't one. Its worst sin isn't its stupid characters doing stupid things, it's that the whole thing feels remarkably lazy, failing to find any tension or even B-movie thrills," end quote. So honestly, I don't really have much to add to that, except for we've mentioned Tremors a few times, and Tremors, on paper could fall under the same category as Thrash, but what Tremors has going for it is charm and particularly likability in the characters. And I feel like for a B movie creature feature like this, there's two things that I'm hoping for. Either A, that the characters are likable enough that I actually give a crap whether they live or die. Yep. Or two, that it has enough suspense or thrill that I feel like I'm getting, the action movie entertainment out of it. And unfortunately, I don't really feel like Thrash delivered on either of those two things. So, I do feel like I gave it a fair shake. This is something that is usually in my wheelhouse, but it sadly didn't really deliver for me.
Yeah, I think especially even when you're looking at something that is 100% irrefutably cheesy and stupid like Sharknado, right? that movie does not have a redeeming quality when it comes to storyline or anything else, other than it is just ridiculous. And
Yes.
that is what makes it fun. But also, you absolutely get randomly slapped with a shark walking down the street. And that's funny as shit.
Yes.
That did not happen in this movie.
No.
There was, again, when I'm watching something, if I can, like, oh, that's a little bit like this, like you kind of said, that's one thing. But again, if it's like, okay, here's 8 different scenes from 6 different Jurassic Park
Yes.
movies, the Juanitas popping up when the big shark comes and scares the little sharks away, and all these little, like, I'm like, this is like the stolen valor of movies, right? Like I just took one little piece of every movie I've ever seen and barfed it into this script, gave it to AI, and said, now you get an A-list character and you get a B-list actress, and then no one everyone has ever heard of or will ever hear from again. Go. Like that is what that formula seems to be.
Yeah, formulaic, I think, is a good way to describe it. It feels derivative, whereas maybe in other hands, it wouldn't feel like just like a hodgepodge of better scenes from better films.
Exactly.
I did find myself unconsciously, unintentionally writing trash in my notes instead of thrash. So maybe that was my.
I forgot the name of the movie altogether. It had nothing to do with anything. There was nothing thrashing about. There was nothing thrash about it. Like, again, at least in a tornado, it would make sense. I was like, you ran out of movie names. That's what happened there.
Yes. One final thought I have about Thrash is that at least it was short. It was like 80 minutes long.
Yeah, it was good though. And that was the nice thing, is that you get the movie thing, but it didn't drag. It
Yes.
wasn't quick necessarily, but it also didn't drag out like it could have. Now, I would not have minded it being longer if it had been richer in, what it was presenting.
Sure.
But I am glad that it was like, well, that was a movie. That was a movie that had parts and people and sharks, and now we are done. But
that was a movie, raves Liz Serna.
There's your tagline.
All right, that's going to do it for our discussion of Thrash. Now it's time to move into the game and find out who won. All right, the first Chekhov's gun we had was my guess, Chekhov's Xanax. Unfortunately, this did not have a payoff. It was just character building, as I thought perhaps it might be, but subtracting points for that.
I think that one just gave us the clue that she had a full diagnosis of anxiety. Like, we wouldn't know from her sliding down the wall and panicking every minute.
Because we need this movie to spell out literally everything for us, the dumb audience. Next was your guess, Chekhov's Snorkel Trek, which did lead directly to the evil foster parents' demise because they were trying to retrieve the Snorkel Trek, and then it allowed the kids to escape to freedom at the end of the movie.
Yay, Snorkel Truck.
So points for that. Next was my guess, Chekhov's Tanker Full of Meat. In hindsight, I don't know if I said what my official guess was, just because in my mind it was so obvious that it was going to chum the waters.
Yeah.
And also, I never feel particularly good about a guess when it is, in fact, so obvious. And also, I went back and watched the trailer after watching the movie, and the whole tanker full of meat breaking open into the waters is even in the trailer.
Yeah.
So since it was so obvious and since the payoff came so soon after the setup, I'm just going to give myself like a little sliver of a partial point for that.
Again, there's the foreshadowing is there, and the action happened, and the movie would have still probably progressed in some fashion, but I mean, obviously we added a large, blood slick to the sharky waters. That's definitely going to escalate the situation. So.
Yeah, and it was specifically that Lisa was trapped next to the chummed waters, etc.
He did tell her to drive directly into a pile of sticks, though. So, and then he ran his truck into a giant statue. I couldn't tell what maneuver he was attempting to do. I don't know if he thought he was going to turn the truck sideways and block the flood water. I don't know what he thought, or if he was going to try to run like turn around real quick and run through? I don't know. Because again, they didn't flesh it out well enough. So it just seemed stupid. And then he tries to crawl out of the truck and gets eaten. I'm like, what? What? You are a bad character, sir.
Yeah, going back to that quote I read, stupid characters doing stupid things.
So on point.
Our next guess was yours, Chekhov's water birth. Certainly has a setup and a payoff. We'll do points for that. Next, I had Chekhov's Nerf gun, aka Chekhov's gun stability. I think at the very best, this was a callback, but also it was so briefly touched on, if even at all, because Dakota does not have a moment when she remembers her mother's advice. This is one of the cases where I'm just going to choose to blame the director or perhaps the deleted scene and subtract points from my score.
blame the editor on that one. They cut the wrong scene.
It's always the editor's fault. Yeah. Again, I'm going to blame the movie for this next one. I had Chekhov's literal guns, which I feel like I was just like adjacent to a correct answer because it turned out it was actually the sticks of dynamite that the children retrieved from the basement to fight off the sharks, not any of the actual guns. So womp womp, sad trombone. I am once again subtracting points from my score column.
I think the most unbelievable portion of that whole segment is that doofus would have actually locked those guns up for safety because that would not have been on his mind to make sure those children or any of those, unless he was just worried they would just take them. Then maybe I could see that.
Yes. And speaking of the off-limits basement, your guess was Chekhov's stakes, which you predicted would be used to make a shark trap, bait a shark trap, let's say.
Bait a shark somehow, yeah.
Full points for sure. And finally, your last guess, Chekhov's jump the shark, as we're calling it. So Nellie the Great White did come back to help scare away the bull sharks, and much like the T-Rex at the end of Jurassic Park, saved the day in her own way.
Maybe we should have just had from the beginning, Chekhov's stole this from every other movie on site.
Yes.
Like, I think that would have been the 100% winner chicken dinner right there. So.
Absolutely. Yes. So if you'll give me just a moment and I will calculate our points. Beep, boop, beep. Okay. Our final scores. I have a grand total of -1 points. And Liz, I'm embarrassed to say you've blown me out of the water, so to speak. Liz, you are our definitive winner with a grand total of 10 points. Congratulations.
Oh woohoo!
But to be honest, I feel like the winner, honestly, because you've said that you and your husband are going to adopt looking for Chekhov's guns in all movies going forward.
So much fun. Like, again, we don't necessarily always enjoy the same kind of movies. We have everything in common when it comes to like our nerd hobbies and fandoms and things like that. So, but I think just watching a movie that you already know is probably not going to be like a stellar movie in general, but watching it from this creative eye of, what is that thing that seems so innocuous at first, but now is like pivotal to the ending of this, even if it's a badly written, plot or storyline.
Right.
What's going to get you from point A to point B? And that we just had a really good time. Like, we're literally just randomly shouting out like Chekhov's dish towel, or I don't know, so, but also trying to like see it through forward. And, I'm a writer, you're a writer. So we do kind of look at some of those things as well as like, what was that thing? Because we do it a lot in reverse. What was that thing that, moved us forward? But looking at it from the front, to the end in a writing capacity or in a storytelling capacity is really fun. So, because I don't write that way. I write memoirs. So I'm writing literally from, the future to the past and back forward again. Like, this is what I remember. This is the pain, and now here's the lesson learned, and here's the good life going forward. But it always starts with going back to the beginning from now. So it's fun to look at it from the other perspective.
It's funny because I have a similar but almost opposite experience with my husband, because he doesn't want me saying anything because he says, quote unquote, that I am spoiling the movie. And I say, I can't spoil a movie I haven't seen before. I'm just making accurate predictions.
Right. Well, and again, I wouldn't go do this at Project Hail Mary or, even the Sheep Detective movie that I somehow really, really want to go see that's coming up. I don't know why. I really want to see this dang movie, but I wouldn't necessarily do it, but I might now look at it from that perspective, even if we're not talking about it. But again, laying on our couch, watching this, this silly movie. And again, I'm usually the one who's like, shut up and stop talking. Like, because again, I've got ADHD. So if I need to like hone in on something for, something I'm doing, I'm writing, I'm taking notes, I'm preparing for something like this, I do need to pay a little bit more attention. I want the captions on just so I can catch anything. And if he's over here going, blah, 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 it drives me up the wall because it's, just too much going in one direction or the other. However, when we set out with, hey, I need your help, and I read him all the rules and all the, expectations of what we were looking for, because I didn't want him over here just, yak. I'm like, I'm looking for something specific. So we've got to like work on it together. And that was fun to kind of go forward. And he about fell off the couch when Bad Dad just popped up out of the water, as I 100% knew he was about to.
Yes.
When they were "fuck you, Mr. Nelson" or whatever his name was, and that was great though. I love that part of the movie so much. Just the kids just being like, "Yeah, fuck you, you mean guy." Then the guy pops up and they're like, "Ah!" And then my husband falls off the couch. He's like, "Oh my God, I almost had a heart attack." I'm like, really? You didn't see that coming from like yesterday? Like I did, but
right. Well, congratulations again on a game well played. Liz, it has been my absolute pleasure to have you on this show, and I would love to have you on again sometime.
Oh, I would love to. Thank you so much for having me. This is amazing. And we've been talking about trying to do a podcast together for a little while, so I'm very glad we got to do that. So
me too. And in the meantime, one more time, where can the listeners find you?
You can find our archive of 206 episodes of Nerdy Bitches at nerdybitches.com. You can find us on all the different, just search for it. It's a different name, different, whatever, everywhere. You can find me at Liz Serna on Instagram, at author Liz Serna on Instagram, and at Nerdy Bitches on Instagram. Those are the best ways to find me. You can also we have a Nerdy Bitches book club on Facebook. You can search for that, answer the questions, and we'll let you in as long as you're not a dick.
A low bar.
It is. The bar is in hell.
Well, listeners, I encourage you to seek out Nerdy Bitches online, and I will leave a link in the show notes to the Nerdy Bitches podcast back catalog. And I also want to thank you for listening to Chekhov's Whatever. If you are enjoying the podcast, it would really help me out if you like and subscribed, particularly on YouTube. That brings more listeners to the podcast. And for this episode, why not let me know in the comments what your favorite cheesy shark movie is? And if it's Thrash, please tell me why. So until next time, thanks again for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Chekhov's Whatever. Go to chekhovswhatever.substack.com to follow along with the podcast. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast app and leave a positive review. You can also find video clips and full audio episodes on YouTube, so be sure to like and subscribe at Chekhov's Whatever. And finally, you can send email to chekhovswhateverpodcast@gmail.com. All right, let's end this show with a bang.